So we've been talking about how to break bad habits. And the first way that we break bad habits is knowing the message, knowing that God is light and He's the one who can show us our sin, but He's also the one who can deal with our sin better than we can. Second, we need to know Jesus. That's what John says. He begins his book by explaining that he had a personal relationship with Jesus. So if you want to overcome your sin, if you want to break a bad habit, you want to stop procrastinating, you want to stop shading the truth or lying or misspending money or misuse of your time, if you want these things to change, then you need to know Jesus, because that's exactly how John starts his book. He says, that which was from the beginning, which we have seen, or which we have heard, and what we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon and have touched with our hands, concerning the word of life. The life was made manifest, and we have seen it, and testified to it, and proclaimed to you eternal life, which was with the Father, and was made manifest to us. John is here saying that he met the life. He met a life without sin. And he had a personal relationship with this life. He knew him. He spent time with him. He listened to him. He looked at him. He had a personal experience with Jesus Christ. And he's writing to us so that we can have a personal experience with Jesus Christ. That's what he says. We're writing these things so that your joy will be made complete, so that you can have fellowship with us, and our fellowship is with the Father and with His Son, Jesus Christ. He wants you to know Jesus. The only way you're going to overcome your habits is by knowing Jesus. Jesus is the great habit breaker. He is the one who breaks the bad in our life. Jesus does that, not us. We need to depend on Him. And remember, I've given you a list of several bad habits that we get into, like overeating or overspending or bragging or lying or comparing ourselves with others. These kind of things are solved when you know Jesus, because you know that He can handle these issues. And John had a personal relationship with Him and recognized that Jesus had no sin. It was fullness of life in Jesus. And so he got to enjoy this life. And as he got to enjoy this life, he saw his sin falling off as well. He saw that Jesus went to the cross and paid for all his sin. So there's no more sin for us to pay for. And we've been saying that there's these three aspects of sin. There's the presence of sin, which we still have, the penalty of sin, which Jesus paid, and the power of sin, which Jesus broke. And since Jesus broke the power of sin, you know one who can break the power of sin. You can expect Him to break the power of sin in your life. Now, you still have to deal with this presence of sin, and the way you do that is you deal with it by faith. You deal with it by trusting Jesus to overcome that presence of sin. And that you wouldn't submit to it, but rather you would submit to Him. And so it's a personal relationship with Jesus. You need to know Jesus in order to break the power of a bad habit, to break the power of sin. You need to trust Jesus. You need to be anticipating Jesus to stop you from worrying about everything that can go wrong. You need to be asking Jesus to give you self-control in regard to the way you spend money and the way that you spend your time. You're trusting Jesus for these things. So how can I break the power of sin in my life and bad habits? Well, you must know the message, and you must know Jesus. And Jesus is that message. So you might think that what I should be telling you is, when I say how you break them, these are the things you should do in regard to them. But see, that's not necessarily the way the Christian life works. Christian life is different. I could give you 13 principles of do this, do this, do this, do this. Or I could tell you what Jesus has done and what you can therefore trust Him for. And that's what John is doing. John is presenting the life of God and access to that life as the way to overcome sin. It is your access to Christ. It is your availability to Christ. It is your coming to Christ. It is your fellowshipping with Christ. It is your praying and praising Christ that will inevitably bring an end to many bad habits. Habits you may not even know you had. Jesus is the one who knows the sin that he needs to deal with in your life better than you do. So what we're doing is we're knowing his message. His message is that he has come to rob us of our sin, that he has brought in the light, and that God is that light to show us where we don't measure up. But he didn't just leave us there. He then purifies us, right? The light purifies us. The light gives us knowledge about sin and gives us wisdom of how to deal with our sin. And the best thing we can do with our sin is to bring it to Jesus. We need to know Jesus and we need to know the message. Those are 2 ways of the 3 ways of dealing with your sin.